Why is a fed-up empath more dangerous than the narcissist ever imagined? Let me speak to you as if you were gathered in the dim light of an ancient hall, where silence itself listens. The empath is not merely a sensitive soul who absorbs the pain of others. The empath is one who has unconsciously carried the archetype of the healer, the sacrificer, the Christ figure who bears the wounds of the collective. But there comes a time when the vessel overflows, when compassion is no longer merely a gift, but becomes a burden pressed into the marrow of the bones. At that moment, something alchemical takes place in the soul. What was once passive absorption ignites into active force. And that transformation is far more perilous to the narcissist than their manipulations ever were to the empath. For it is the moment the shadow awakens. You see, the empath and the narcissist are not as separate as they believe. They are two poles of one archetypal dance. The narcissist inflates the ego, erecting walls of false superiority to mask inner fragility. The empath collapses the ego, dissolving into others, denying the sharp edges of their own desire in order to feel safe in love. One swells, the other disappears. Both are caught in the same prison, fear of rejection, fear of annihilation. But when the empath reaches the threshold of exhaustion, when their spirit refuses to be consumed again, they turn to face their own shadow. And here the tables are reversed. For the shadow of the empath is not weakness, it is power. It is the repressed fire of autonomy, rage, and creative will, long denied, now bursting forth like a volcano that has slept for centuries. I recall a dream from a patient who had always yielded to others. In the dream, she was standing on a shore, holding a fragile bird in her hands, nursing it with tears. Then suddenly, from the ocean, a serpent rose, coiling itself around her arm, forcing her to drop the bird. She woke in terror, believing she had betrayed her compassion. But what I told her was this: the serpent was her instinct, her life force, demanding expression. Compassion without instinct is sentimentality. And sentimentality is the disguise of fear. When the serpent of instinct rises in the empath, it does not destroy their kindness, it gives it backbone. And this is what the narcissist never anticipated, that the one they fed upon would discover the forbidden marriage of sensitivity and strength. The narcissist thrives as long as the empath remains unconscious of their complicity. Manipulation requires blindness. But the moment awareness dawns, the spell is broken. The empath begins to see the pattern. How they were cast in the role of savior. How their worth was tethered to how much they could endure. How silence was mistaken for virtue. Awareness is the most dangerous weapon in the psyche, for it awakens choice. And once the empath realizes they can say no, that they can withdraw the sacrificial offering, the narcissist finds themselves starving in their own hunger. For the narcissist does not merely seek admiration, they seek a mirror that will forever confirm their illusions. When that mirror refuses, the edifice of their false self trembles. There is a paradox here. The empath who has awakened to their shadow does not become cruel, nor do they transform into a narcissist themselves. They embody a deeper archetype, the warrior, healer. This figure does not offer unconditional surrender, but conscious love. Love with boundaries. Love that says, I will see you, but I will not be consumed by you. In myth, this is the moment when Persephone, stolen into the underworld, no longer weeps as victim, but ascends as queen, holding the pomegranate in her hand. She has tasted shadow and returned with sovereignty. The narcissist who once believed himself a king finds he has only played a role on a fragile stage. The empath who was underestimated becomes ruler of her own depths. Think of the collective implications. We live in a time when the archetype of empathy has been exploited by systems that demand compliance, by relationships that feed on guilt, by cultures that celebrate self-erasure in the name of goodness. But what happens when masses of empaths awaken? When the silent hosts of those who carried the burdens of others decide to no longer carry what does not belong to them? There arises a revolution of the soul. The meek do not inherit the earth by remaining meek. They inherit the earth by realizing that meekness was only the mask of their slumber. The inheritance comes when they awaken and refuse to play the scapegoat. I once said that individuation is not achieved by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. For the empath, that darkness often includes rage, assertiveness, even the will to confront. These qualities were long repressed because they threatened rejection. But repression never destroys. They remain alive in the unconscious, festering, demanding recognition. When the empath finally listens, they discover that what they feared in themselves is precisely what completes them. The dream of the serpent was terrifying only because it had been denied. But once embraced, the serpent becomes the staff of power, the caduceus of healing, the very symbol of transformation. The empath who unites serpent and bird instinct and compassion embodies wholeness. And wholeness is a force no narcissist can dominate. Do not think this process is without struggle. To awaken the shadow is to endure chaos. The empath often fears becoming what they despise, fears losing their gentleness. But here lies the alchemical mystery. The vessel of the soul is strong enough to hold opposites. You can be both tender and fierce. You can forgive and protect. You can love and say no. This paradox is the essence of the self, the archetype of totality that transcends all polarities. The empath who has walked through fire does not become hardened, they become luminous, because they no longer project their shadow onto others. They own it, and in owning it, they dismantle the narcissist's power, which depended entirely on projection. Imagine the scene: the narcissist, expecting submission, meets eyes that no longer flinch. They speak words designed to wound. But the empath's silence is no longer the silence of fear. It is the silence of recognition. Every tactic is exposed, every manipulation transparent. This is not the empath as victim, nor as aggressor, but as witness. And the witness is the most dangerous position of all. For the narcissist cannot bear to be seen. They survive in illusion. But the gaze of a conscious empath strips illusion bare. In that gaze, the narcissist confronts their own emptiness, their own dependency, their own shadow. And that is the terror they never anticipated. So, why is a fed-up empath more dangerous than the narcissist ever imagined? Because the empath, once awakened, is not fueled by the same hunger. The narcissist is forever enslaved to external supply, forever chasing affirmation like a phantom. But the empath, when they turn inward, finds the wellspring of the self, that inexhaustible source that no manipulation can touch. Their danger lies not in aggression, but in freedom. The narcissist cannot control what is free. They cannot exploit what no longer seeks validation. They cannot dominate one who has married their light and their shadow into unity. The danger of the empath is not destruction, but transcendence. And transcendence unravels every web of control. You who listen must understand. The path of the empath is not to destroy the narcissist, nor to become them. The path is to awaken to your own fullness, to cease projecting divinity onto others, and to claim it within yourself. You are not merely the healer, you are also the warrior. You are not merely the vessel, you are the flame. And when these opposites unite, you become whole. It is wholeness that terrifies the narcissist. For wholeness cannot be possessed. It cannot be drained. It stands like a mountain, rooted in both earth and sky. And the narcissist, who built castles in the air, discovers that against the mountain, they are but dust in the wind. Thus I tell you, if you are the empath who has grown weary, know that your exhaustion is not your end. It is your initiation. It is the call of your shadow. demanding that you embrace the serpent within. Do not fear it. Welcome it. Let it coil around the bird of your compassion until both ascend together. For in that union lies your power, your freedom, your self. And when you step into that self, no narcissist, no manipulator, no false king can ever hold you captive again. You will have become dangerous, not because you seek to harm, but because you cannot be deceived. And in a world built on deception, there is no greater danger than truth embodied.